Hi everybody, and welcome to Freddycraft. I'm Freddy, and today I'm going to talk about Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. I'm going to do an explanation and cut content video for the second season, episode 0. Just a warning, this is not spoiler free. So if you haven't seen episode 0, watch it first before watching this. There will be some major spoilers for the episode. This video might also include incredibly minor, vague information from later in the series. That may, for some people, be considered a spoiler. I'll give you an example. If you're extremely sensitive to spoilers, then turn off this video Wait, hold on a second. Hit the like button, then feel free to say, "I'm terribly spoilery" in the comments. Nothing worse than that, please. Then turn this video off. Okay, here's the example. Someone else, somewhere in what would be Season 3 of the anime, assuming it happens, will have their hair go white. If that's too much of a spoiler, then this is not the video for you. Okay, first, this episode 0 of the anime takes its content from an extra chapter in Volume 3 of the Seven Seas light novels called The Princess of Asura and the Angel, and another extra chapter in Volume 4 called Guardian Fitz. The first chapter covers events up to the conclusion of the beast attack, and the second goes to the end of the episode. Everything that happens in this episode is taking place from the time of the teleportation disaster until, in Rudy's story, Rudy, Eris, and Ruijerd leave the demon continent, approximately a year of time or maybe just a little bit over. Sylphy, and by extension Rudy, is 10 years old at the beginning of this episode, and 11 at the end. Personally, when I first saw that it was going to be an episode 0, I had assumed that it was going to be a story thus far episode using clips from the previous series, and adding perhaps a little bit of new animation as a framing sequence. I was very wrong. This is all new material, and I'm really happy to find that out. So now I'll start going through the episode, filling in some of the book-only details that the anime left out. There are places where I will make some complaints, but I would like to first point out that I consider these tiny quibbles overall, and I like the episode. And I'm anxiously awaiting the next episode in the series. Okay, let's get started. The very first scene shows lilies at night. This is significant because there are several gardens in the Asura Palace based on the flowers that are grown there. But Ariel prefers the lily garden for tea parties and such. After the series title comes up, we have Sylphy falling through the sky. We've gone back in time to the day of the teleportation disaster event that sent Rudy and Eris to the demon continent. There's a slight problem here because Sylphy's hair is still green, even after she gets teleported into the air above the capital city of Aras in the Asura Kingdom. There will be someone whose hair turns white later on in the series due to losing a massive amount of mana in a very short time. But in this episode, Sylphy simply casts a low-level water spell, so her hair should not have changed color at that point. It would be fine if it changed color in the middle of being teleported because somehow the disaster changed it, but that isn't how the anime portrayed it. So why did the anime portray it that way? Well, probably because they wanted you to know that Sylphy is Fitz right from the start, and this was their way of showing it. But the in-universe reason is never explained, either in the books, for reasons I'll get to toward the end of the video, nor is it explained here in the anime. But it's true of the books and the anime that her hair color goes from green to white before she meets Luke and Ariel. That's what's important here. And because her green hair was the source of her bullying as a kid, she never tells anyone what her original hair color was. This was one of my quibbles with the anime version, but it's a tiny quibble in my opinion, not enough to impact my enjoyment of the episode. Okay, on the ground we are introduced to Princess Ariel, Luke Notos Greyrat, her guardian knight, and Derek Redbat, her guardian mage. Luke and Ariel are more or less the same age, about 13 here, and both are sexually active. Their conversation was a little franker and less innuendo-ish in the book, but the scene was basically to establish that Luke, a huge breast-loving heterosexual, and Ariel, a bisexual with a slight sadism fetish, are both seducing the same women in the palace, mostly maids and ladies-in-waiting. While Derek, a mage in his late teens from a middle-ranked noble family, is more prudish. The Asura high nobility are portrayed as all being perverted in some way or another. The middle nobility and provincial nobility are more vanilla where sexual proclivities are concerned. Another thing emphasized is Derek's insistence that Ariel should become ruler of Asura. In the book, most of the chapter was mainly told through Derek's point of view, and this idea is gone into in depth there. At this point, Ariel is uninterested in taking the throne. Then back to Sylphy. We get another problematic visual here. At least in the book, this whole scene took place in and above the main royal palace. The main royal palace is at the center of the city of Aris, and Aris is the largest city in the world of Mushoku Tensei. It's said in the books that you can see the city stretching out to the horizon. City stretching out to the horizon. This is Milishon, the largest city in the Milis continent. And this is Aris? This is Rikarisu, a huge city in the Demon continent. And this is the biggest city in the world? In this visual, we can't even see a vacation palace for royalty. It looks like a tiny hamlet below. This is all just kind of strange. The action scene plays out rather close to how it is in the books. The only difference is that in the book, Derek gets a death scene with Ariel before Sylphy arrives. Also, Ariel and Luke see Sylphy using powerful chantless magic, and for that reason, Ariel decides to keep Sylphy. I love the character of Ariel, but she basically uses people for her own benefit. If Sylphy wasn't so obviously useful, I doubt she would have kept her close by like she does. In the anime, the next scene is where Sylphy awakens, sees her reflection, and especially her now white hair, and wonders if she's dreaming. Again, her green hair was led to her being bullied, and she's extremely happy that the color changed. But she doesn't want to convey that to Ariel or Luke because she doesn't want anyone asking what her original hair color was. She was afraid she'd get rejected or bullied because of it. By the way, mirrors are a huge luxury in this world. Nearly all glass in the world is made on the faraway Begarit continent, so in Asura there are hardly any mirrors in the less wealthy households like Rudius's home, or especially Sylphy's. This is why Sylphy is often seen looking at herself in mirrors. Not only is it very rare that she gets such a clear sight of herself, she's also looking at her hair color. When Ariel promises to try to find Sylphy's family and friends in the books, she actually is as good as her word. The anime doesn't show it, but in the book, she hires a group of people who head out searching for Sylphy's friends and family. Odds are it is they who cross out Sylphy's name from the missing list that Rudius saw late last season. And it could have been them who found out that her father and mother were dead, since in a scene that will probably happen later in this cour, she will already know that they're dead. Ariel's search party couldn't have found Rudy because by the time Rudy got back to the Fitoa region, it was years after the final scene of this episode, and Ariel will not have been able to pay for the search party after fleeing north. In the books, Sylphy did help Ariel dress and take care of herself. The anime next combines a couple of book events. There was a section where it mainly focused on the unkind rumors flying around speculating where this silent Fitz came from, and a meeting between Ariel and Pilemon, Notus Greyrat, Luke's father. A note about Pilemon. He is Paul Greyrat's younger brother, and he's described as being sort of a Weasley version of Paul. This character design does not get that across. There is also very little in the way of direct contact in the book between Ariel and her brother, the first Prince Grabel. So the innuendo battle and the put-downs are anime only, as is Fitz's panic at the nobles' rumor-mongering, and Ariel's saving of Fitz with a song. Again, these are anime only. Still, I guess when you have such a good singer doing the voice acting, it'd be a shame not to use it. Although it wasn't set in a theater, the conversation between Grabel and Darius while Darius is fondling a sex slave is fairly loyal to the book, except the book never outright states who the slave was, although the wording in the book implies that the identity of the slave girl is important to the story. The anime takes that to believe that the identity is the assassin, which makes sense from a short-term storytelling perspective because it introduces the assassin character before she actually appears in the action scene in the episode. That way you know who sent the assassin. But I think the one Darius was fondling in the book was a different slave girl character who won't appear again until Mushoku Tensei Season 3, assuming we get another season. See, I told you I was being vague about the spoilers, right? Sylphy's nightmare also happens in the book, and that's why Ariel rewards, air quotes, Sylphy with sleeping together with her one night. The scene where Ariel makes moves on Sylphy, Sylphy's reactions, and then Ariel's assurance that they'll just sleep alongside each other are all from the book. A problem with the anime is it didn't show how much time passed between the time that Sylphy first appeared in the Lily Garden and the night Sylphy and Ariel sleep in the same bed and were attacked later. An entire year had passed between those times, so by that time Sylphy was 11 and she probably had a year of combat training, and Ariel was probably 13 or 14. The action sequence of the assassin's attack was pretty true to the book. The book didn't have as many back-and-forth attacks as the anime, but the basic events were pretty much the same. The only part that was changed in the anime was that the poison knife only cut one of Sylphy's fingers as she tried to catch it, rather than slicing her back. And before she passed out, Sylphy was able to use chantless detoxification magic on the wound, thus saving her own life. Oh, another thing is that Sylphy's last attack severed all the assassin's limbs as it blew her out through the wall, making it more obvious that Sylphy had killed her. What the anime doesn't portray is that the assassination attempt had two outcomes. First, the nobles mainly accepted that Fitz was good enough to guard Princess Ariel, and the second was that, since the assassination attempt almost succeeded, there were a long succession of assassination attempts after that, which left Ariel mentally exhausted. So the books added what was probably a few more months even after the assassination attempt before Ariel flees. The final scene, where Ariel tried to release Sylphy from her service, never happened in the book. But the theme of the anime's episode was that Sylphy finally finds a place to fit into, and she's made a friend aside from Rudy. So that scene was probably necessary from a dramatic standpoint. My guess is the final scene of three people walking across a mountain range was a quick visual way to show Ariel, Luke, and Sylphy escaping without needing any exposition. Since there was no time left in the episode, even for opening or closing credits songs, under the time crunch I can see why they decided to cut the scene down to just that. But that scene sort of left a bad taste in my mouth since Luke and Fitz weren't the only ones protecting Ariel. In the book there were about a dozen others who tried to accompany the three of them as they fled north. Two of which were even named, although they didn't really get personalities. Those dozen or so guards and attendants and what happened to them were also something of a plot point for events that will unfold if Mushoku Tensei ever gets a Season 3. Also, there are events in the books, a little past where I assume Season 2 ends, where Ariel has to walk long distances, and the book makes it clear she really isn't up to that kind of physical exercise. After every long walk, she needs her attendants to use healing magic on her and physically massage her legs. One last point. The chapters about Sylphy in Volume 3 and Volume 4 of the light novel series are all told in third person, but mainly through the eyes of a boy named Fitz. Never once is it mentioned that Sylphy and Fitz are the same person. This explains why Sylphy's hair color change and its reason were never mentioned in the books. It was trying to cover up the fact that Sylphy and Fitz are the same. In fact, this keeps up well into Volumes 8 and 9. For reference, when we catch up to Rudius next episode, we'll be at the beginning of Volume 7. The books tried to play it like Fitz and Sylphy are two different people. The reason why will become obvious as we get into the events of Volume 8, probably later in this cour of the anime series. But personally, I'm glad that the anime didn't try to disguise the fact that Sylphy and Fitz are one and the same. The books were really terrible at hiding the truth. I figured it out almost immediately. The anime staff throwing up their hands and just saying from the start, Fitz and Sylphy are the same person, was the right call in my opinion. As I said earlier, all in all I liked the episode. There are niggling gripes I had, but it was relatively faithful to the books, and I could imagine why the few unfaithful points were changed. It was a lot of ground to cover in 25 or so minutes, and I think they did a relatively good job. This particular anime scene, though, reminded me too much of bad American animation. I mean, compare that to last season. Anyway, it's obvious they put money into the scene fighting against the Terminator boar, so I'm not going to complain too much. I'm really looking forward to episode 2, which is still a few days off as of this recording. Tell me what you think of this format in the comments, along with any other thoughts you might have, and if you'd like and subscribe, it would really help this channel, and let me know you want more of this. I'll try to get another one of these out comparing the anime and books for the next episode too. See you then, everybody.